Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Bacula!
To be eligible for an Emmy, it's got to be 45 minutes. I don't think I'm going to make it that long. First off, a note about comedy specials. It's not that I watch more than you, but I do watch different ones. Or maybe Louis Black. You guys have heard of Louis Black? You know Louis Black. He's been making specials and albums for like 20 years. His most recent one, he comes to the stage, and the microphone he has is the same microphone you see on comedy night posters. It is a ribbon-style microphone, which went out of style before stand-up comedy was invented. What are you doing, Louis Black? What are you doing? And it's got like a fake patina on it. It's like custom. It's like black and red. It's like a very fancy, but it's not the microphone he's using. He's using a fake microphone. On the other hand, I am using a real microphone. Some would say I am more prepared than Louis Black to film a comedy special. Another special I watched recently, I logged on to Amazon Prime to do it. I didn't have an account, and they gave me a 30-day free trial, which means I'll probably end up paying like $60 to watch this one, because I forgot already that I signed up. So I'm watching this special, and it looks like it's in a hookah bar, because the front row is as well lit as the performer, maybe more well lit, to the extent that at one point someone in the front row yawns. In the special, in the editing room, they're like, oh, we're gonna keep that in. And if you are filming a special in a hookah bar, maybe make it look like a comedy room. I took the back room of a bar and made it look like a comedy room. I would say maybe I am more prepared to do a special than this Amazon Prime special. Here's this guy, this fella I've always hated. He filmed a special. This is how he went about it. He runs a festival, a comedy festival. And so he booked himself on the festival that he himself runs in the best venue available, which meant that people paid to come see him film his special. You guys pay? You guys didn't pay. And you're not going to believe when I tell you what he did. I haven't seen it, of course I haven't seen it, but I know it. I just know this guy, and he filled the special. I just know it, top to bottom, stem to stern, with jokes. What kind of fucking idiot in 2020 fills a comedy special with jokes? God damn, I assure you there will be no jokes in this. I know this has been an exceptional open mic, so what I'm about to say would have been more fitting at most of the other open mics. We've just been through an open mic, so some of us may need a refresher on what jokes are. It doesn't work tonight because you guys crushed. There, you all remember the other nights. It's a joke is a series of words strung together, but really in a joke, it doesn't matter what words you use, it's only a rhythm situation. It's a rhythm and inflection. That's what a joke is. So I like to reassert there will be no jokes in this comedy debut stand-up special. I do have a timeline. It's a timeline assembled of anecdotes that are relevant, only relevant anecdotes. The special might be called The Boy Who Cried Snip, because it's about my vasectomy. But it might just be called The Boy Who Cried. You guys can pick. I'm going to take a vote. July 28th, 1984. I am born. Our story begins. Relevant anecdotes only. It is a fitting bookend that my mom scheduled my birth. Not medically, but she knew my dad had 2 days off and she wanted him around, for when I was born. And so she scheduled it. The date was July 27th, 1984. She took my 2-year-old brother to the fair and just did laps. She said, I got a schedule. I'm having this kid. So I was born on schedule. Quite a jump here. May 2012, my first son is born. June 2012, the Hives released their second most recent album, Relevant. It's called Let's Hives. It's an exceptional album. The thing that I love the most about it is that every song is like the Hives' take on a different genre. Like there's a song that sounds like a Springsteen song, there's a song that sounds like a Devo song, but all as though the Hives had written them. And this seminal album in my life, Rolling Stone, the only people who covered it at all, gave it one line in the back of the magazine. They said, the Hives released another party album. Period. And you sons of bitches! Jan Warner's been fired like 20 years too late. He should have been fired for giving the Hives such disrespect. I say. Skip ahead. November 2014. I do comedy for the very first time. The joke, the gist of my set, and it's on YouTube, is I am the joke. The gist of it is, I think it's funny that any white cis hetero male would think a room full of people are interested in what they have to say. That is my joke at the time. You see, it still stands up. I kept going for like 3 years like that. I went back to that club with another bit, a bit that I still do, and it was about something that my mom said to me in high school. So I was 28 when I started doing comedy. I was 31 when I was still talking about something my mom said to me in high school. And I performed like 2 months ago. I'm still talking about something my mom said to me in high school. And the gist of the joke is that some men think vaginas have teeth. Yeah, you just say it out loud and people are like, But that wasn't, the guy who books that club, the only time he told me he liked a joke I was doing, I think he liked me because I showed up on time. I think that's why he kept booking me. But I did a joke where I say, I didn't drink in high school and I didn't smoke weed in college, both for the same reason. I wasn't invited. That's a good joke, keep doing that one. And that's when you can learn about yourself doing comedy, because I didn't know I looked like a guy who wasn't invited to stuff. In November of 2018, I stopped drinking for the first time. And I blame the amount I was drinking on selling insurance. I was selling insurance at the time. And I think that's probably the most reasonable thing I'm going to say all night. I went to a couple of AA meetings because I woke up and I checked all my pockets, I checked everywhere in the house, fresh out of excuses and apologies, turns out. So I went to a couple of AA. It was in a 12,000 person town. I don't know if you guys have been to AA meetings in a 12,000 person town. It was one guy and me. The guy running the meeting barely showed up and he left his teeth at home. And I forget what we talked about. He kind of told me how the meetings usually work, the more than just me show up. But he made me promise to come back the next week. So I came back the next week, and it was almost just the two of us, but a third guy shows up. Oh, and he's swirly. This guy, there's something in his wiring. He is chomping at the bit. And so we kind of talk. I kind of tell the third guy what I told the first guy. And I said, well, I've been drinking pretty much every day. He's like, so you have a couple on the way to work, right? I said, no. And that's when I realized, like, I might be something, but I'm not this. So, yeah, that was my last AA meeting. My second son is born, and I take a year off comedy. I started bartending, though, which is a great, I did it for the money. And then when I came back to comedy a year later, I started a show, and I faced a great dilemma. Well, like when I started this. I'm the guy who named this Greater Mankato Area Comedy Coalition. And so when I was making this show in Madison, Wisconsin, I'm like, God, I could call this soapbox comedy. And you guys are nodding your heads because it makes sense. Or I could call it The Hearkener. I was debating and I texted my mentor and I'm like, what's between these two? And he's like, well, definitely soapbox comedy. So I named it The Hearkener. And then I bought a box, a square box from Menards, and I took a razor and I cut the letters, The Hearkener, in the front of it, and I took one of these lights, that one because it's more dented, and I put it in the back and I made it a shadow box for our comedy show. And I'm like, I'll do everybody in town a favor by giving them an opportunity. God, I wish someone would have given me. And nobody gave a shit. I'm like, we'll do longer sets. You can do 5, 7, or 10 minutes. And they came with their notes like, this is something that I thought, dating apps? Anyway, so we almost did a year of that, and then COVID hit. But also before COVID hit, I scheduled my first vasectomy. So I scheduled it for the first time. The wording's a little off. And like, I don't blame COVID on anyone. I wish, if I could blame COVID on anyone, I'd blame it on pangolins. Because we talked about it for a minute, I think we could talk about them more. They're Asian armadillos, and I don't think that they got the spotlight for long enough. So if I could blame COVID on anyone, it'd be the pangolins. And blaming it on pangolins isn't racist at all. You can be mad at pangolins in any room. In May of 2019, I featured for my comedy mentor, Stuart Huff, and to that point, it's the best comedy show I've ever done, the best performance I've ever done, also on YouTube. And I started off with a joke about my friend who had killed himself. And it went really well. The idea of the joke is that I'm an ambitious guy, I'm ambitious in comedy. I'm so ambitious, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get so good at comedy that this friend of mine regrets having killed himself. Out of the park. Every time. Didn't get me anywhere. But after the show, I went up to this guy who'd been doing comedy in Madison the longest. And I'm like, was that too dark? And he shrugged. He was indifferent, so. I forgot to say, oh, this is a fun story. I scheduled my first vasectomy with a guy, Dr. He's a urologist. I first met Dr. when I had urethra surgery, which you're not supposed to have. No, some people are like, oh, you got an old soul. I got an old body. A few people have talked about it. I've got, oh, your knee's bad? My urethra was bad. Yeah, they made cartoons about it. Is how nonsensical that is. Dang it, Bobby. I was having a consultation with Dr. and he had a student. It doesn't matter if she was Asian, but it was a lady student. I remember it forever. She was like 20-something. He's like this little guy, more hair than a person should have, except right here, and it's a lot of comb. And then he asked me if when I ejaculate, I get a lot of distance. And I kind of look at her to be like, well, this is awkward for you. And before I can answer it, thankfully, he's like, minimize distance. So then, when I scheduled this vasectomy with Dr. and find out that he's not available to do my pre-op because he needs some time off, I'm not surprised. This is a guy who gets a lot of time off for saying weird stuff. People tend to be kind of touchy about what you say about the genitals. And so I'm not surprised that this guy's not always available. I talked to his nurse one time. She'd been his nurse for like years and years and years. She's like, yeah, some people don't like him, but he's good at what he does. I don't want to use the word begging lightly, but the next time I saw him, he was like, you're going to need a follow-up. Just let me do it. Oh, really? You don't get to come in all the time, huh? I moved to Mankato and started drinking again. I'd like to think that they weren't related. I told my therapist at the time, I was like, no, because I'm feeling so good. It's why I'm again. He's like, I'm not allowed to give advice, but that's what we call a bad sign. In November of 2021, I started Greater Mankato Area Comedy Coalition. I didn't even bother coming up with a relevant name. I just came up with a bad one. But it's worked out. May 24th, 2022, there was a massive school shooting in Texas, the Uvalde school shooting. We were doing open mics at the time, and I'm a little bothered by it. And I'm walking into the open mic, and in the parking lot, I see someone who used to come all the time. He's like, oh, how you doing? I said, I'm just real in my head. It's just like real, you know. He's like, oh, about what? I said, Uvalde, the school shooting. He's like, oh, that's right, you have kids. There's a prerequisite to caring about school shootings? In June of 2022, I started seeing a chiropractor, which I had been talking about for a decade. You know, I had a long, I felt like I had some karate injuries, and I kept talking about it, and then I talked about it near an acquaintance. She's like, yeah, you're crooked. What? And she said, yeah, your shoulder's lower on this side, and I can tell when you walk. I'm like, you could have mentioned. Before I mentioned. And so yeah, I see a chiropractor, and sure as shit, she's like, there's a lot to do here. So I started taking care of myself by going to a chiropractor. August of 2022, unbeknownst to me, I am what meteorologists would agree is very depressed. Now, some of you guys obviously are familiar, but your brain won't let you think you're depressed. It's like depression's like a filter that your thoughts go through. And so like, I'd be working, because I work here too, and there were times I'd just be working, and then I'd just be walking, and then I'd just slow down, and I'd just go like this. And then, instead of thinking maybe you're depressed, it's like, you're tired. Maybe you're hungry. Oh, I know what it is. You're tired and hungry. I'd be driving in my car to the grocery store for the 14th time that week, and I'd be like, I want to die. It's called, not an invasive thought, but it's accurate. Yeah, intrusive thought. Thank you. That's called an assist in basketball. Because I gotta care about shit that I don't care about, so I know what that's called. And then my brain would let me say that, but it wouldn't let me say, maybe you're depressed. It wouldn't even allow the suggestion. My depression, I liken it to the Russian-Ukraine conflict, which is okay, because Titus Andronicus made a whole album about two giant warships fighting where like hundreds of people died, but really it was just about his breakup. So I'm allowed to co-opt the Russian-Ukraine dilemma for my depression. Now, Russia is the depression. Ukraine is the couple healthy things I'm doing for myself. And to characterize it another way, like we've all seen movies where there's like a fugitive, a righteous fugitive. He's just trying to clear his name. He's just trying to, and he's been wounded. He's a wounded, righteous fugitive. And he's running fast. He's got like a limp because it's not a vital place, like his leg or something. He's just trying to catch up with the last train out of town. That's all he wants, is to catch the last train out of town. So my couple of healthy habits are just trying to get on this train out of town. And we'll leave you with that one for a second. This is very important. I was so depressed that I started using Messenger as a social media app. So, several times a day, every day, I have 2 Facebook accounts. One on the app, one on Explorer. And so I'd go Facebook, nothing, Instagram, nothing, Twitter, you better know nothing. And then I'd open up the internet and go to Facebook and nothing. So what I would start to do is I would go on Messenger and I'd be like, essentially anybody up. I'd be like, oh, here's a thought that I had, and I just kind of spray it at people. And then there was one person who would always reply. And so like instead of going to social media for like a serotonin burst, it was like every day I could go bam, 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 and there'd be this reply. It was as if there was another person in the world who wanted to talk to me. Which is a sign that you do. Okay. I got into Scotch. Woo! Not because I could afford it. There are 2 reasons to get into Scotch. One's because you can afford it, which is the right reason to get into Scotch. 2 is because it's comforting to be reminded that life is pain. And that's why I got into Scotch. I would go home and my wife would be like, "How was your day?" And I'd be like, "Actually, it was like probably the best day I've had in a while. I used a paint scraper to clean the pizza ovens, and it works like really well. So this is a high point, actually." And can you believe that me walking around saying stuff like that, people didn't want to talk to me? I obviously like needed a break from the grind I was in so bad. I like needed a vacation, and I could have asked for a vacation and been given one. But the problem with asking for something and getting it is then you're expected to be satisfied, and that's an expectation I will never meet. Incapable. And so what I came up with, I'm like, well, I need a vacation, but you can't get something for nothing. So I know I'll reschedule my vasectomy. That's how I'll get a couple days off. You know, get a little, some ice and some tension and just cut my balls a little bit, and then I can have a vacation. The stuff I need a vacation from. Do you guys know chew packets?
Yeah.
Chew bags, so you put a little chew packet in your mouth? Yeah. This is how I found chew packets in every nook and cranny of this bar, cleaning up the bar in the morning. And I've decided that if there was 3 little pigs, if there was a 4th pig who needed to make a house that was stronger than bricks, it would be used chew packets. So I needed a break from used chew packets. I needed a break from weather. It sounds like I'm saying I need a break from small talk, like talking about the weather. But what I needed, it's not you, it was hearing myself talk to people about weather. It was seeing somebody go by, and I'm like, it's cold! It's a rhetorical question. Is it too much to ask to only interact with the people that you want to interact with?
Yes.
Yeah, it is, Dan. It is. I'm glad the football's still on because, again, hate competition, love a fight. So all this stuff I needed a break from. It's like I needed a break from waking up, and I realized that like a coma of nightmares would be preferable. And that's why. Because being scared of imaginary things is preferable to being bored by real things. That's what I decided. I tell, it's like, I need a vacation from this, And it's like, is that what Cancun is? Like, is that what sandals is? Is that how that works? Like, or is it like I just go and get bothered by other stuff and then come back and I'm just broke and bothered by the same stuff? And it's like, oh, it's so comforting to be bothered by stuff I've been bothered by forever. It feels so not bothered by new stuff. Right? Just cut my dick off. Like, I would rather, why can't we just... This is a weird one. September 2022, I perform again with my comedy mentor and hero, Stuart Huff, and it's easily the best performance I've ever had, this one included. I do jokes about the Boy Scouts, the gist of which is like, if the mission of the Boy Scouts was to seek out and dispatch of child sexual predators, when they knocked on the doors, only one person wouldn't buy that popcorn to support that mission. To uproarious applause and laughter. That joke. And that joke did get me, like the guy running that show, called the guy who owns the club, and I got to do some sets there, and then this guy had me do like a private function. So that's like, I didn't do it justice here, but it's got some legs. And that crowd, the amazing thing is I talked about Andrew Jackson for so long. And they were into it the whole time. That's how you can tell you're having a good set. In March of 2023, I was diagnosed with AFib. It's where your heart's irregular pattern. Just in Chuck Another Italian, the whole body thing. You know that old country song, My Heart Skipped a Beat? It's about falling in love. You fall in love so hard. You're so happy that your heart skips a beat. I went the other way. Turns out you can skip a beat going so sad. It's like your heart just doesn't give one, and then it's titter-tatter for them. And mostly I was relieved. Because finally there was a consequence. Finally there was something happened to me. This was like, I've been asking for it, and here it is. You eat enough frozen pizzas in 1 week. Like that doesn't work, add some candy. That doesn't work, keep Cutty Sark isn't that expensive. And you know what? If you drink it long enough, it doesn't taste as bad. Finally, life was life and death. There was something at stake. I was defibrillated. You guys know about it? Yes. What's crazy is I had to go in an hour early, put on the gown, get sedated. And before they sedated me, I'm like, okay, but how long does it take? Oh, just a couple seconds. That's crazy, because I've been here for 2 hours. Like, I'm like, what does it look like when you shock me? They're like, you might shake a little bit. Like, so I'm getting anesthetic to shake a little bit? Like, I've seen a lot of movies where people are better after they get shocked. What if, can I just stay awake and drive myself home? But no, I was not allowed. On April 30th, 2023, it was the last open mic of the season. We were going to stop doing open mics for the summer because the world's against me and doesn't want me to be happy. Never mind, I can't be, but it's going to stop trying. So we have this incredible last open mic. All of you, all of your family, and all of your friends were here, even if you don't remember it. Like, it's the second most packed this room has ever been. And just every performance was ascending communal joy. And Grum topped it off with one of his best sets ever. Everyone was rolling, in love with being alive, and then I did 16 minutes on school shootings. You remember the ones, the one about, imagine how bad the gun feels. That's the kind of material I was doing. May 23rd, 2023, my wife sees a couple messages on Instagram and, Facebook Messenger from this lady. And she's like, you're having conversations with this lady, huh? I said, yeah. And then a week later, she opens up my computer and sees that I've been having conversations several times a day with this lady for 10 months. Telling her the same stuff I was telling her. It's like, I'm having a day, I'm listening to the Hives. I'm having a day, I'm listening to the Hives. And my wife was cool about it. She was I believe her exact words were, only 10 months? Only several times a day? Only the exact stuff you were telling me? She was very mad. Actually, she was very mad. It's difficult to transition out of that, to communicate. How mad she was. But it was an event of this magnitude was necessary to give me like an out-of-body experience, to look at it on paper. And I charted it out. I'm like, this is a debut stand-up comedy special. No, I made a couple appointments with therapists, because there's a wait list for therapists, which is something I did a little joke about, women shouldn't be allowed to get therapists until mass shootings stop. Men should get priority until we stop being men. That's what I thought about therapy. So I made 2 appointments, and I met Dr. Ken Martin, whose name is going to stay in here, because he deserves all the disrespect I'm about to give him. See, I made what he would think was the mistake of coming into meeting a therapist thinking that my thoughts and feelings and life events were important. He opened the door thinking that he has to fill out this form and that he already knows everything. So he would ask me a question, and I'd start to explain it. He went, okay. And then he would tell me a story about how he sold his last office for so much money, and this is where he met his ex-wife, and then this is what his practice is. He just loves doing it, and his mom doesn't understand. I could do a whole special about this guy because that's how much I know about him after my therapy appointment. I would be speaking, and he would cut me off and then summarize what he had decided I was saying. He's like, you're too caught up in mental masturbation. And then I'd be talking to him and be like, what you have is a spiritual deficit. Come back next week. So he decided I was caught up in mental masturbation and a spiritual deficit. So a good thing I had that appointment with that other therapist. And then I meet the therapist I'm still currently with. So first she's like, we should do ADD testing, which is insulting to be almost 40 and to hear for the first time in your life, maybe you have the most common thing. Maybe you've gone 38 years with nobody thinking, hey, maybe you have the most common thing. So we signed up for tests for that. And then a few sessions in, she's like, Dan, it seems like, you really need to stop overthinking things. And here's this book, about not overthinking things and accepting a higher power. And I said, okay, what? It sounds like you're telling me that I'm caught up in mental masturbation and have a spiritual deficit. I still got the other guy's number. Maybe we can... The notes, this is very common. Janine Garofalo has made a career of bringing notes on stage every time. Todd Glass has made it. So this is fine. And then I had my consultation with my newly former urologist, whose name won't be appearing in this debut stand-up comedy special. There are these memes that go around sometimes of women being like, I drove my husband back from his vasectomy. No one tried to stop him. It was in and out. I've been trying for years to get a vasectomy. This sentiment, all due respect to female reproductive health care, but that just doesn't ring true to me. And it's all I can do when I see it on Facebook to not be like, well, actually, not all men. So I had this consultation with this other guy. And part of the brochure, one of the things they tell you about getting a vasectomy is to wash, they're like, wash the area. I thought it was implied. And then it says, with soap. Yeah! What? Were people coming in with like moist, stinky taints? Like I can tell you splash some water on it, but it just smells like fresher dingleberries, actually. So like, we gotta start putting soap on the brochure so we don't have to deal with this. But then he told me, too, how and where to shave, which, well, that, I realized that's a bridge I'm gonna have to cross. That was news to me, so I put that in the back of my head. My wife graduated, she's a graduate. I had a heart MRI the same day my wife graduated grad school. A heart MRI. Everybody I talked about getting an MRI, they're like, 10, 15 minutes, you're in the tube. Nobody wants to be in the tube. 10, 15 minutes. I get there and they're like, yeah, you'll be in there for about an hour. Fuck if I will. She's like, well, it depends on how well you do. I'm like, I'm gonna do pretty fucking well. I'm gonna do the best I can. Like, there are beeps and like holding your breath, and I'm like, I'm gonna. And when I finally got out, I'm like, how did I do? They're like, it was fine. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, I was trying really hard. Yeah, I need some more validation. But I had already left, and those were just things I said to myself in my head. I'll never know how well I did at getting a heart MRI. It was my last bartending shift, because my wife had graduated, and I decided bartending was bad for my mental health, so I asked, can I stop with the bartending shifts? And the family said, okay. The only problem is that is $800 less a month. I'm like, no. I was advocating for myself. I said, I'm worth it. We had committed to working through everything. I'm like, I'm worth it, we're worth it, mental health, And between July 18th, my last bartending shift, and August 3rd, which is when my vasectomy was scheduled for, between that time, I'm not sure when, I didn't write it down, I got a call that my urologist had to take a few months off. One adult said to another adult that a third adult had to take a few months off. Word for word. Who takes a few months off of anything, ever? You guys all taking months off of shit? I'm not surprised. In my head, I remember Dr. And I was like, maybe this guy's a creep too. He's just saying some kooky stuff. So I wrote it off, rescheduled. I saw a heart doctor in Shakopee. That shouldn't be on the timeline. That was one of the most unremarkable things that happened. But relevant anecdote, the Hives released a new album that month. It's called The Death of Randy Fitzsimmons. And I've got a lot to say about it. I probably listened to it driving to Shakopee and back a bunch of times. The weekly comedy open mics also started back in September. I don't know what I was doing jokes about. I had no idea what to do jokes about. You can't joke about the Hives. So, you remember when I said my therapist wanted me to do ADD tests? Those are scheduled, and then my insurance said I needed my primary care physician to sign off on it, which is a fun trick. And I didn't have a primary care physician because when I lived in Wisconsin, I had one. I never met him. I tried to schedule an appointment. I'm like, hey, I got an old body. And they're like, you're not due for anything, so no. So when I go to Minnesota, I'm like, I don't need a primary care physician because they don't need to see me. But then I needed him to sign off on these ADD tests. And so I go in and I sit down with this guy. This is the guy. And he sits down way down because he's here and then he's here. He's like, so you need me to sign off on these ADD tests? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, tell me about your symptoms. I'm like, I don't think that's your practice. But I walk him through it. He's like, I don't see it. I'm like, are you gonna not sign off on my fucking tests? But he's like, I don't know, whatever, I hope this is what they need. So he signs off on it and gets scheduled for ADD tests. He comes back later in the story. October 7th, Hamas invades Israel. And they are very obviously the bad guys for about 12 hours. And then Israel spends from October 8th until today, probably tomorrow too, going for the worst. They're like, we get it, Hamas was bad, you thought Hamas was bad, remember the Nazis? That's what we're going for. That's what we're swinging for the fence. We're ambitious, they said. After I was doing a set about Hamas, and I realized that I never made fun of Netanyahu's name. And I feel like I should have. So now, in my debut stand-up comedy special, which will be translated in whatever language he speaks, isn't it crazy, ladies and gentlemen? This guy's elected prime minister, and his name is Yahoo! Stick it to him. So then I have the ADD tests. I tried to give plasma. You guys do plasma? You guys give plasma?
Tried.
You guys on blood thinners? Like I knew going into it, I'm like, this might be a concern. Their website doesn't say anything about blood thinners. I Googled it, they're like, maybe. So I sign up, I go to the appointment, I take off work, I'm going to this appointment, and they prick my finger, I didn't have enough iron. And then I'm like, you know what, while I'm here, can I just ask about this? So they get a person who gets a person who gets a person who gets a person, and then I go into the office, and she's looking up meds, and she's like, I've never heard of that one before, what the fuck is that for? And then I'm like, I'm also on a blood thinner. She's like, I gotta figure out this first one. I'm like, but blood thinners are okay? She's like, let me figure out this first one first. And then she gets to the blood thinner. She's like, oh yeah, not if you're on blood thinners. So then I skip ahead. Oh, the ADD tests. You guys tested for ADD? You guys do that one? Yeah. You nod your head fast when you've been tested for ADD. It's blinking. It's like there are two different screens that blink, and you only click when it's the one screen. And so 3 times I got caught up in how good I was doing. That I fucked up. And the second time I go, fuck! And then the third time, I was just trying to remember, you only fucked up twice. When you talk about it for years and years, you only fucked up twice. And fuck! The third one. But I think the fact that I've been upset about ADD for this long, I'm probably fine. Like, I've focused on it for long enough that I think I've proven it. Now, November 6th through the 9th, my vasectomy is scheduled for November 9th. From the 6th through the 9th, in 3 different sessions, I attempt, for lack of a better word, to mow my lawn. For the first time ever. Now, some of you have done this before, and some of you haven't. Those who haven't are probably like, what's the big deal? But those of you who have are probably like, it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of crazy down there. Was I always using the clippers with a clipper guard? No. So I had a lot to learn, turns out. So that's why it was 3 sessions. So I was going through it, and then I show up on the 9th or the 7th or whatever it was, 9th. I'm ready. I'm as ready as I can get. I shaved to the best of my ability with several different tools, and like there's different layers happening already. And I get in, I'm checked in, I have my ride set up. I took off a day of work. I took off fucking a week of work, which here, and so like 2 other people have to reschedule their entire schedules. I'm in the office. They get the gown on. I don't know the last time you guys have had one of these gowns on. They're different, but they're still bad. It's like a 2-ply thing, so it's like twice as all the bad things. They did fix the butt thing, like 100 years late, but they fixed the butt thing. So I'm in the gown, I'm sitting in like a really comfortable chair where it seems like this is where it would happen. But she says, this isn't where it's gonna happen. The doctor's gonna take you in and go down the hall. And so like a succession of like 6 nurses come in and tell me their role. My name's Becky, I'm gonna do this. My name's Ann, I'm gonna do this. I think they're all my nurses. And then one comes in and puts a hairnet on me. I'm wearing a hairnet, and they're like, the next thing that's gonna happen is your doctor's gonna come in and take you to the operating room, and then it's gonna start. And then my doctor came in and said, I can't do it today. Because during the pre-op, my primary care physician said, stop taking your blood thinners for 2 days, and you should be fine. And then my urologist, he says, you need to stop taking it for 5 days. And if he wants to perform the vasectomy when you've only been off blood thinners for 2 days, he should bring a bucket, because it's going to be a mess. Like, that's his problem. And so my wife had gone home with a horrendous migraine, so I have to call her up an hour early for my ride home. So she's like blinded, she's upset, she's trying to pretend that she's empathetic with my place, but she's in a place of her own. And I unschedule myself off of work. And it's scheduled for the next week. He's being very generous, this doctor. He's like, we'll just squeeze you in next week. Even though I've got all this shit planned, I'm like, fine. Because he only does it on 1 day. He can take 3 months off at a time and only do his job 1 day a week. Which really, I guess, isn't missing that much of work. I never did the math before. You know, he's not so bad after all. And so you only know what time you're going in for a surgery the day before. So you can't schedule a half day off. You have to schedule a whole day off. So I've rescheduled me off for a week. My wife can't schedule her off because she's got a real job like the rest of us. No, not you guys. Some of us. And I get the time and I start calling, I line up rides, just people I know. Can you take me there? Can you pick me up and bring me home? And I have rides scheduled so that I can break the rules. I'm gonna go home and then I'm gonna get in my car and I'm gonna pick up my kids. Because that's how real people life works, not fucking doctor paperwork life works. So I get a text that it's 11:30, which means I'll be out at 1:30. That's perfect. I line up these rides. And then I get another text that says, no, actually come in at 1:30, which means I won't be able to pick up my kids. So I decide 2 things simultaneously. I'm gonna cancel this vasectomy and I'm gonna film my debut stand-up comedy special, because that's all I can do. Irony of ironies, remaining potent has left me feeling very impotent. People are like, yeah, man, I love losing. There's a Neutral Milk Hotel album. You guys know Neutral Milk Hotel? It's a live album that they recorded at like a children's pizza place. So it's like you're listening to this like obscure niche emo music, and there's like a whirligig going on in the background with children laughing. Neutral Milk Hotel in my debut stand-up comedy special. I'll cut that part out. I'm not cutting any parts out. What would be the best revenge for not getting a vasectomy? To cut or not to cut? Like, I'm not sure. Good. Like, if it didn't land with anybody, I'd be sad. But like, this guy was like, okay, I see what you did there. This is the 3rd page of 3, so. No, not the top of the 3rd page of 3. But here's the thing. It's like, I canceled the vasectomy and decided I was going to do this because it was either that or take my shirt off and start breaking things. And here are 2 things about me. 1, I have not prepared my body for my shirt to be taken off. If I take my shirt off, I'm immediately defeated by the shape and color of my body. where is and isn't. And I don't have things to break. I don't own things. And like, I'm not gonna break other people's things. I'm not even asking other people to like listen to my feelings outside of a professional setting. Like, I'm gonna ask if I can break things? That's fucking ridiculous. So, and look, I've got a real microphone, and the room looks like a comedy room, and I've completely avoided telling jokes, so I think I'm much more prepared for this than taking my shirt off and breaking things. People are like, Dan, oh, you're throwing a tantrum, you're so privileged. And yeah, I'm fucking throwing a tantrum. Like, children are dying. Yeah, I've written a lot of jokes about it, actually, in different situations. And it's like, but here's the thing, there are different expectations. Like, children born in Israel, Palestine, they were born into and or on a minefield. There's an expectation there that like, this is gonna happen. I was born in America, where the expectation is like, you ask for things and then you get them. And so like the one time that I go out of the way and ask people for their world to revolve around me, and you get something, and yeah, I'm throwing a fucking tantrum. And in the throes of my tantrum, this old piece of wisdom occurs to me. I don't know if it was Mark Twain or Eudora Welty who said it, but it was, how much am I expected to participate in your self-image? One of those, it was Dave Chappelle, it wasn't. It's actually like a very controversial quote that I guess Jacob would have got it if he was here. But I would say, how much do I have to participate in your reality? How many mornings do I have to wake up giving a shit about shit I don't give a shit about? Why do I know anything about sports and fucking no one wants to talk about the Hives? Like, there's a silver lining. I'm trying to look for silver linings on the other side of it. Between my vasectomy, I got a different urologist. Other people would have got a different urologist when the first one had to be gone for 3 months. They would have been like, I don't want that guy if he leaves for 3 months. So I got a different guy, and it's rescheduled. It's in April of 2024, so that means, when did I say I scheduled my first one? It's the better part of a decade to get this vasectomy. My balls will be in a very different position than they first were when I first wanted them cut. For the vasectomy, I will throw them over my shoulder like the Continental Slope when I finally get this vasectomy. But between now and April, like at least I've got a new hobby. I've got different blade guards that I'm going to use. I can do like different layers, like the hedges in that Monty Python movie, the different shrubs. I can make my area into a Monty Python joke, which is pretty exciting for me, and just me, because I'm the only one who's gonna see it. And something I learned from ladies, there's scented shaving cream, and I don't know who that's for.
Not pubes, no.
Alright, well that's good. I was gonna learn that lesson on my own. And I'm like, here's the thing, you can't tell me nothing. I used to do a bit about nicknames, about how no one ever gave me a nickname, but that I would give myself the nickname Narky McBuzzkill. And that joke got me into the joke joint in St. Paul, which very shortly after closed. And for a while I was doing a joke about not having a nickname. The reality is my mom gave me a nickname, and it was Difficult Dan, which is a good nickname because I am, and it's alliteration. So I've decided to give myself another nickname, also alliteration. My nickname for myself is I'm Impossible. Yes, I do have an advanced degree in English. The thing about this hobby of mine, what I'm hoping for, my ambition for this new hobby with the blade guards and whatnot is that if I can learn to care about myself by trimming my pubic hair, then maybe too I can learn to let others care about me.
By trimming your pubic.
I have been Dan Bacula. Thank you very much. Something else you might not know about comedy specials is they always do 2 shows. So, you guys ready?